Hey guys, Chris Rivers here. Welcome to day 30 of the Productivity Challenge. I hope you've had so much fun getting productive, learning new skills that can help you serve people better and ultimately receive more responsibility. I wanted to share with you today the last of our Productivity Challenge, and this is a book review. How do you create so oftentimes you read books that have challenged you mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever the case may be. And how do you create, I'm going to show you how to create an assessment using a book called Momentum. This is a great book. It's a Colin Smith book. It's the blessings. It's about the Beatitudes of God and just pursuing those. And so he lays out several different chapters on what it looks like to embrace the Beatitudes. And so one of the things that I often do with teams to help them take things to the next level, to help them move and carry weight is just simply building assessment. So what I've done in this book is I have read this book, and of course, like many of you, you might underline verbs, you might underline ideas or different things that you want to apply. So the book's over, and then 3 months later, you're like, man, you talk to somebody like, man, that would be a great book to read with someone. How can you help them understand where they stand in the book prior to reading it? So that's what we're going to do today. Sometimes having a helpful assessment that you can take, whether it's a culture assessment or a book assessment or any sort of idea that you're trying to put aside, it's helpful to give people an idea to assess themselves, because oftentimes people have to wrestle with an idea up here before they settle with it here in their heart. So, reading a book is great, but if you can give them an assessment prior to reading that book, and then maybe even have the assessment taken later, it really is a powerful way to equip people. And then you're able to hand off that assessment to other people so that they can replicate it in their own environment. So let's talk about a little bit how to do that. One of the things I'm going to show you, when I originally created the Momentum assessment, I kind of went through this book, and what I did is I created a Google sheet and I created the different marks that set things apart. So the marks are kind of like measures. Marks in Will Mancini's book, Church Unique, he identifies a mark as a quality or a characteristic in the life of an individual that reflect the accomplishment of a greater mission. Okay. And so in this case, the mission for this book is to be more like Jesus and to embrace the Beatitudes. So what are the marks to be able to do that? So Colin Smith, he lays out in this passage, Matthew, he talks about the Beatitudes, and he talks about there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ideas, 8 Beatitudes that you would embrace. And so what I've done is I've gone through this book and I've created what are called I-verb statements. So the mark is I bring nothing. So blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. So when you recognize that you don't have what it takes to live a holy life, that's the first step of bringing nothing to the table. That's the first part of embracing the first. That's a part of momentum and embracing your walk with Christ. That's where you start. So what I did is I created these I-verb statements. I daily look to Jesus for what I do not have and find in him all that I need. Those were 2 I-verb statements that I got out of the first chapter. So if you were reading a book like No Man Left Behind, let's say this is an incredible book. I'm reading this now. If you went through each chapter and identified the action that you're supposed to take to apply what you're learning, then write it down as an I-verb statement. Whatever the mark is might have to do with the chapter, so to say, the title of that chapter. So what we did is we took these I-verb statements, and then I created a digital assessment. So this is my digital assessment here. Momentum, using the distinguishing marks of a person who lives under the blessing of God, found in Matthew 5. Challenge yourself by conducting an assessment to help evaluate your progress in the Christian life. You could do this with so many different things, but here you can see you're going to choose a number that best corresponds on a scale of 1 to 5, and then you just create your section. So I bring nothing. That's the verse. These are the questions that are in my assessment. And I've got 2 per beatitude per mark. So I just basically took these ideas, these I-verb statements, and I added them to my to my assessment. And you can see I've got responses. If you scroll down through some of these responses, you can see how I've done in taking them. I've only taken it 7 times, but I've given it to other people to take, and they've been able to take it and get their results to them, which is awesome. So that's a really cool thing. One thing that you can do is if you ask for respondents, if you collect emails at this, then when they finish the assessment, it will email them their response, which is really powerful because then they can actually evaluate what they just took. So that's one way that you can do that. You can see these are the number of times I've taken it and who else has taken it, and you can see the individuals that have taken it. This is the individual part of it and how I did. So that's an idea. So how do you do that? It's pretty simple. What I would do is I would create a folder called study. Okay, so we're going to call this study, and these would be maybe the books you read or the things that challenge you. And in this case, I'm just going to double click. We're going to do the same process that we did with our goals, but I'm just going to call this momentum. Okay, and then I would create a Google Sheet. I would double click on this. I would begin reading my book. If you want to create a Google Doc and start to, write down some of the notes that you're taking. I'm doing this right now with Man in the Mirror. I'm just using a Google Doc. But if you wanted to use a spreadsheet, we've talked about spreadsheets and other videos, but you would just kind of read the chapter and think of an I verb statement. An I verb statement is I verb do what in that chapter, right? So in this case, if we were to, take these ideas, and I'm just going to, copy them over here and paste them in here for easy access for this video. Let's see if that will. Okay, so there they are, and then we just call this momentum, I verb, momentum, momentum, I verb. If you wanted to share this document with other people, you know how to do that. Oftentimes I'll drop this thing down so I can actually go through the process of that. Also, I talked to a pastor the other day. He asked me to help him print something like this. If you ever want to print just a section, so like maybe you just want to print, the marks, okay? And you go to File. If you highlight what you want to print first, so like in this case, highlight this, hit File, and then Print. And you choose selected cells, then it'll only print what you want to say. So I had someone ask me that the other day. That's a quick how-to piece right there for sheets. But they're your verb statements. So now it's just a matter of now going in and creating your form and doing just what we did before. So we did this yesterday with Abe Lincoln. You take the same concept, but in this case, instead of doing your questions here, you're going to just do a multiple choice. You'll just choose multiple choice. You'll go to your I verb statements. Let's go to the first one. We'll call this I bring nothing. And you'll just follow the process. So just like what you saw here in my questions, you're going to have kind of the top section. If you don't want to collect email addresses, then just go into your settings and uncheck that. Okay, you're just going to hit on the little gear icon and go from there and take it off. I just showed that to you earlier. Yep, so we'll just take out collect email addresses, hit save, and then that piece will be removed. There it is, right? So basically what we're doing is we're just taking our first, we're just going to call this momentum. And we're just going to go into our form description. There you go. And we'll delete this because we want to create a new section, right? So we go to our next section. We're going to go, let's just use our sheet. We've got I bring nothing. So we're going to go to this and say I bring nothing. And if you want to add the description of, I bring nothing, and you want to add the description of that verse. So in this case, we're talking about Matthew 5:3. So if you had a description in the book that you wanted to use, you could do that. And then we're just going to add our first question. So this would be your I verb statement. We're just going to copy this and come over here and put that statement right there. We'll put in the last video, I talked about having 6. I would probably do that. I would just use a linear scale here and just put poor, great. We would just need to change some of that wording up here. You might not even need to put some of this stuff, just choose it, just go through it, and then you can just go through the next question. and copy it for the next one, and then you create a new section, and you're rocking and rolling. And now what you've got is you've got an assessment that you can give to people, and they can take it. They can celebrate and evaluate that work. You can say, hey, listen, let's read this book together as leaders, right? I think this would be really powerful. And why don't you want to read this book? Maybe it's a sermon series that you've got at your church. Maybe it's a women's study or a men's study, whatever the case may be. Create some I verb statements for them and give them to the people prior to meeting. And then right before your first session, you say, guys, let's share some of the data that we got out of the 20 people that are in this book study. This is what we're starting to see already. These are some of the things that we're going to read in the book. Let's jump in now and start talking about it. Okay. So that's a way that you can be incredibly productive, using what you've already learned, but also showing people that you mean business. I mean, part of productivity is getting things done. And when you get things done, people start to recognize that. This is a way that you can do that. Okay. So hopefully this has helped. Hopefully you've enjoyed the 30 days of productivity. Share this with someone else. Like, bless somebody with this. If you have questions, you can always email me at hello@culturebus.cc. I love to talk to you guys. Email me if you have questions, and I look forward to seeing you get productive in your life.